Hello, 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 and welcome to Courageously Kind. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Liz. We're twin sisters and best friends.
Together, we share stories of especially kind humans doing especially kind things in hopes that these conversations motivate and inspire you to be kinder to yourself and others. When we're not speaking with an incredible guest, we'll speak directly from our hearts about what it means to us to be courageously kind. Hi, I'm Maddie Adams.
And I'm Liz Adams, and you're listening to Courageously Kind, a show dedicated to inspiring courage and spreading kindness.
Our hope is that these conversations spark conversations of your own, so we all can find the courage to be kind. If we sound a little bit excited today, it's because we are recording for the first time in our college's recording studio.
In a lot of ways, it feels like we're recording our first podcast. Just like new equipment, new space, but same courageously kind message.
But it's super exciting. Like, the microphones we're using are like such an upgrade from what we've been using. Just like you can move it in every direction. It's just awesome. And it's like soundproof in here. It's so cool. So cool. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. We've done a bunch of episodes with some fabulous guests. Definitely go check those out if you haven't already. Today we're going to do kind of a little follow-up from our last episode because we talked about a lot of exciting things in our last episode about mindfully consuming news and content. And it got us thinking about something that I think we all experience at one point or another, which is doom scrolling. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what doom scrolling is, about why it is not very kind for your mind, and how we can be a little bit kinder to our minds and maybe stop doom scrolling when we notice that it's happening. So Liz, how would you describe doom scrolling?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is the phrase, like, I couldn't turn it off. It was like a train wreck. You know, I would describe doom scrolling as that negative, just kind of like being stuck looking at the news, scrolling through Twitter whenever something bad happens, and also seeking that out yourself. That's a huge part of the definition of doom scrolling, is continually seeking out bad news, even when it makes us feel worse.
And it can be really hard because, you know, in our last episode, Brandon explained that our brains are hardwired to want to look at bad news and to want to retain bad news. And good news doesn't necessarily retain as well in our brains. And that's for, like, biological survival reasons, right? If you think back, like, to the cavemen, they needed to know when there was, you know, a saber-toothed tiger that was going to eat them all the time. So it's literally in our biology and our brain makeups, but it's not always healthy, and it can get really overwhelming really fast. You know, if there's some sort of tragedy or if there's something going on in the news that is stressful and overwhelming, it can be really hard to tear ourselves away from that news cycle, but it is possible. And today we're going to give you 5 tips on how to stop doom scrolling so that the next time you find yourself staring at Twitter for hours on end, you maybe have some tools in your toolbox to help you be kinder to your mind and take a break from that overwhelming cycle.
So our first step is to be aware of our habits. Right? The first step is the minute you have a problem, just noticing your habits when you turn to Twitter, when you turn on the news, and when you feel like you're unable to turn it off. That first step is acknowledging that you are doom scrolling, and that's the first way to stop yourself in your tracks.
Yeah, is to first be aware of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And once you're aware of what you're doing, this is a great tip that Brandon shared with us last week. The importance of reading your news instead of watching your news. So Brandon explained, right, that like when something happens and then there's this story, typically, say, newspapers or print media will we'll put out an article that will take you maybe 5-ish minutes to read. It doesn't take too long. Easy to digest and consume most of the time. Whereas a TV program, it might take like an hour or so. They're trying to fill an hour with a 5-minute story. So reading your news instead of watching your news can be a great way to just sort of get the information. You might get a little bit less bias and other personal opinion and perspective, and kind of just provide you with the information and then to move forward from there. Instead of watching the news for hours, you can just read a couple stories. That'll take you, maybe 10 or 15 minutes.
Absolutely. And then our third step is to set boundaries. I feel like boundaries is a big buzzword today, but it's so important, and I'm loving that people are seeing the importance of boundaries. So maybe this looks like not consuming any news for the first hour of your day or the last hour of your day. Maybe this looks like actually scheduling time to watch the news. Take advantage of local news stations that have, a 6 o'clock broadcast, that you can turn that off after that hour is up. It'll really help you not only prioritize your time and manage your tasks, but it will also help you free up a little mental space.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to emphasize it's important to be informed, and it's important to know what's going on and what's going on in your world and your community, but it's okay to set that boundary, and it's okay to say, I'm not going to go on Twitter after 9 p.m., I'm just going to play my little games, play Candy Crush. Like, is Candy Crush a thing still? I don't think it is.
There's very few people that have, one Candy Crush. Because there's thousands of levels, right?
Oh, yeah. What games are you playing on your iPhone? We want to know. Send us a DM at Courageously Kind Podcast on Instagram. Shifting our attention to our next tip. Our next tip is actually about shifting your attention. When we're consuming these stories that can feel really scary, really sad, really overwhelming, it can be really helpful to shift our attention away from not necessarily the tragedy, but shifting our attention toward the people that are helping. So Brandon mentioned last week that there are always people that are helping. There are always people that are getting involved and trying to make a difference. And we don't always see them on the news, but they're there. So shifting our attention away from the tragedy and toward, or just shifting our attention away from the news and toward people that are working to make a difference can really help our peace of mind and can help us feel more optimistic and better about the situation.
Yeah, and just a little fun fact, that whole tip or concept of looking for the helpers was started by Mr. Rogers. So if it's familiar, that's probably where you've heard it from.
One of our kindness heroes.
We love him. Another thing Mr. Rogers encourages us all to do is to become a helper. This is a great way to get out of that funk of feeling helpless and feeling like there is no way for you to better the situation that you're consuming. So there are plenty of ways to become a helper. Good, along with their news stories, have links on their website of how to help the stories that you're reading about. And it can really help shift your perspective from a doomful one to a more positive one.
Absolutely. So those are 5 tips. We hope they help you the next time you find yourself doom scrolling. Maybe you didn't even know what doom scrolling was. So hopefully this episode was informative in some sort of way. We want to leave you with a little thing called the Serenity Prayer. Now, don't worry, you don't have to be religious. It's not really a religious thing. It's something that can apply to all of our lives. But we thought it was super applicable for talking about doom scrolling and being stressed out about some big issues that are going on in the world. So we've modified it a little bit, but here it goes. Our hope for you today is that you can accept the things that you cannot change. You're filled with the courage to change what you can, and that you have the wisdom to know the difference. So we'll leave you with that. And Maybe we should like come up with the opposite of doom scrolling, like a happy scrolling or something. Like that's our mission at Courageously Kind.
Also, maybe like on Instagram or Twitter or something, tag us and share with us what you're scrolling through that is not doom scrolling.
You're happy scrolling. My Instagram is full of baking videos, otter videos. I'm obsessed with otters. And painting videos are very calming to me.
Love it.
What about your explore page, Liz?
Mine is mainly like nature, some like architecture, like pretty buildings, and again, baking, painting, puppies. What more could you want?
What more could you want? Yeah, let us know what makes you happy on the internet, what brings you a little bit of joy and less doom. And we hope you have a great week.
Yeah.
We'll see you back here real soon. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode.
For more kindness content, check out our Instagram at Courageously Kind Podcast.
And if you liked this episode, please consider leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts and feel free to share this show with your friends.
Take good care, and we'll see you back here real soon.
We'd like to give a huge thank you to Anna Waltz Landscape Contracting for their support of Courageously Kind.
Anna Waltz is a family-owned landscape contracting company in Berks County that has served Pennsylvania for over 35 years.
If you're ready to get your landscaping project started, visit annawaltzlandscape.com or call 610-916-7070.
Anna Waltz Landscape Contracting, beautifying Pennsylvania 1 yard at a time.
Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, feel free to share it with your friends, your family, or anyone you think might like it too.
And if you want to support the show, leave us a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really does help. Or check out our merch store at courageouslykind.org. Take good care, and we'll see you back here real soon.